You want to know one of the hardest parts about becoming a leader? It's not what you think it is, because we already know that you're going to have to lead meetings and make difficult decisions. And so we expect those things. And we also expect that it's going to be a challenge to even earn your team's respect. Believe me, I know, I've experienced it, and all of these things are important. But I think that it comes down to this: realizing that the identity that got you promoted is not the identity that will help you to succeed. Stick with me because this is going to be a good one. Welcome to Crossroads and Catalyst. I'm your host, Shanita B. This is where we explore how a thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at life's crossroads can become the catalyst for meaningful change in your leadership and the direction of your life. So, in recent weeks, I did an episode, number 65, that mentioned this very topic, and it's more so focused on the things that you do, the actions that you take as you make the transition from an individual team member to a leader. But today, I want to go a little bit deeper than that, because I think that every promotion changes what your role requires most from you. And this is one of those things that I think is basically put in the background, and we don't realize the importance of drawing on other strengths within us. Okay. And I'm not saying that you have to remake yourself, because you don't automatically become a different person when you take on a new job. But what I am saying is that the attributes that got you where you are may have to be reprioritized and put on display in a different order, because now different strengths are going to be required from you. So today we're going to go ahead and explore one of the biggest mindset shifts that I think that every leader must make. And we're going to do this by discussing why the strengths that earned your promotion are not necessarily the strengths that your new role is going to require from you. And one of the things that I want to make sure is that you do not reduce your promotion to just a reward for what you've accomplished, because that is looking past tense. That's looking behind you. We want to be forward thinking and forward looking. And so I want you to see your promotion or this new role that you have as an invitation to become the leader that the new role and the organization requires. Okay. So thus far, if this conversation is making a lot of sense to you, and this is despite whether or not you're preparing for your first leadership role, or if you've already been one and you're pretty seasoned, I want to encourage you to sign up for my email. And in so doing, I'll send you a copy of my What's Next guide. And what this is going to do is just give you some prompts to help you think through where you are, get clarity about it, and make some decisions, even some micro steps that you can take in order to figure out what you want to do next. Okay, that is the whole purpose of the guide. And so I'll leave the link for you in the show notes. Okay, so the very strengths that earned your promotion, they won't always be the ones that help you to thrive in your new role. And that is the crossroads. Okay, simply relying upon old habits and strengths as if they're going to be enough to keep you afloat. And that might not necessarily be the case. And so I want you to think of it like this. Yesterday, your value came from what you produced. But today, your value is going to come from what your team produces, because it's not just you looking out for yourself. You are looking out for your team. And as you continue to build them up and pour into them, you're going to reap the benefits of what you have provided to them. And I liken it to the different relationships that we have in our lives, right? Every one of them is different. And every one of them draws upon something slightly different from you than the other. And this is not to say that any one of those skills or strengths or traits are any better than the other. And I guess depending on the context and the circumstances, it may very well be. But my point is that each of those relationships requires something different from you. So some expression is different that is being portrayed and conveyed in those moments. So you may show more tenderness and patience with the partner, while you might be maintaining a more structured or professional boundary with a colleague or even a stranger, right? And so similarly, when you take a look at your leadership evolution, you recognize that it's going to demand a shift. And this shift is going to have to take place within your focus. So you're moving away from what was an individualized, solitary pursuit to a more team oriented, empowering pursuit where you are lifting others up. And this is where I want you to really grab hold of this, okay? Because if you don't understand this dynamic, you will stay stuck at a crossroads because you're not going to understand and then know what to do next because you're still relying upon the old way of doing things, right? So now that we know what the crossroads is at this particular point, we can get clear on what is and what is not helpful, okay? We know that the issue is not that you lack ability because you don't. You're smart, you're talented, you're bright and intelligent. You made it to the position that you were intending to get, that you were striving for, right? But what's necessary is learning that the role now it's going to reward you for a different mix of strengths. Okay, so I want us to take a look at some of the things that we should stop measuring. Okay, and these are just examples. Think about it. Maybe as an individual team member or contributor, technical expertise was highly valued and highly important. And this is not to say that it's not important and that it doesn't matter. My point is that that same level of technical expertise is not going to be required from you. Reliability, attention to detail, those things still important, but they're not the priority. And so you would want to shift your thinking and your focus onto strengths like coaching, because now you have direct reports who are going to be looking to you for guidance, for feedback, and for information and insight. And it will be your job to help them, to point out things to them that they might not necessarily be aware is an issue or concern. And it might not be that it's an issue or a concern. It could be that you want to highlight for them an area of strength that maybe they have just kind of shied away from putting on display. Okay. Another strength is delegation. This is one of those strengths and skills. It requires a lot of work, especially if you're new to your leadership role after being an individual contributor for so long. It is hard to let go. I've had conversations with friends. I've experienced this myself because we want to be in the know about a lot of things. And as your leadership capacity continues to uh, grow, or I shouldn't say grow, as your leadership capacity continues to shrink, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to realize that you don't have time to get into the weeds of the work. You have to rely upon your team to do that. And so you have to make a decision. Either you're going to burn yourself out or you're going to delegate this work to those who are just as capable and competent as you are in their roles. All right. And another strength is influence and strategic thinking, because, of course, a lot of leadership positions require strategic thinking. So, again, your attention is going to be divided if you're attempting to continue to do the work of your old role as a leader. Okay. And so these are required strengths. And what I'm saying is, you're going to have to express these, and these are going to be the ones that need to be seen most. And you're not going to have the same level of proficiency with each of them. But what you should be doing is making strides towards sharpening these types of skills. So, what this is going to require you to do is to stop measuring how busy you are and how many problems that you've solved. You're going to have to start measuring how capable your team becomes now that you're the lead, now that you are the one who is making decisions and providing the guidance. You're also going to have to measure whether others can make decisions without you, because if you have a team that can only make decisions based on what you tell them to do, they're not independent, they're dependent upon you, and that is not the place in which you want to find yourself. Okay, when you were a team member, you were responsible and accountable for yourself. Now you're responsible and accountable for your team, and your goal should be to help them grow and to empower them. Okay. And this just reminds me of even some of my own experiences, because I've been on both sides of this. I've been, of course, the individual team member, and I've also been the leader. And I can tell you from when I was an individual team member, I recall one of my leaders telling me in their own words that they didn't pass along work that they should have passed along to me because it was just easier for them to get it done themselves rather than to explain it to me. Now, imagine how I felt recognizing that they just would rather get it done rather than to explain it to me. So that didn't help me, and that didn't endear them to me. And I don't think that they meant it in a way that they felt like I was incompetent or incapable. They just were looking at efficiency and, hey, let me just get this done and move on to the next thing. But when I voice concern, hey, I need additional work, I need something that's going to help to stretch me, then they realize, oh, okay, well, let me make sure that I that I pass along this work. And then I can recall as a leader working with a team, because a lot of the work that I had done over the years had required Excel skills, and I was a pretty good user of Excel. But this new team that I had inherited, they were phenomenal at Excel. And once I realized that they had a skill set that even I didn't have, okay, well then it was time for me to let go because I had transitioned from a team that did not have any Excel skills. And so the organization, we paid for my team members to acquire Excel skills. So they took a course to teach them. But it was not just something that they would use at that time. It was something that they would use for the duration of their role and into the future roles that they would take. And so it worked out really well. But that was a part of my job, was to understand where they were, what they needed, what the job needed, and how could we make all of those things align. And this is what you have to do as a leader. And it's okay to not be in the weeds. It's okay if the team members have a process that is slightly different from how you would have taken care of it. Unless there is some regulatory component within your organization or external to your organization that's being applied, sometimes it's just better to give the liberty to carry out a process the way that the team member wants, as long as they're getting it to you in a timely fashion and it's not slowing down anything else. So you have to consider all of these things, right? And so now that you see the clear distinction between the individual performance and the collective success, you have a choice to make. Okay, so you can either cling to the comfort of doing the work for yourself, or you can embrace the challenge of empowering those around you. And specifically, these would be the people who are relying upon you to be honest with them, to share feedback with them, to open doors if you have the ability to do so. So you're going to have to ask yourself, will I keep proving my value, or will I start creating value through other people? This is an important question, okay? Because there's an irony here. The more you invest in the growth of others, the more your own leadership stands out. So this does not diminish your leadership ability and what you will be able to deliver as a leader. This is going to highlight what a great leader you are, because you see the skill and the talent in your team and you help to develop that in them and you encourage them in that. And this is why the mindset shift is so important, because it takes the focus off of you and puts it onto other people. And this is not to say that there are not going to be times when you need to focus on yourself. But what I'm saying is you have to understand that in order for you to be a successful leader, you have to recognize that there are going to be different things about yourself that need to be put on display, certain characteristics and traits and skills, because this is what the role requires. Your identity remains the same. You're just bringing other things to the surface that will suit you and benefit you as you continue to grow and learn in your role. Okay? This is the kind of stuff that is really going to help to take you as far as you want to go. All right? And so this is why I wanted to talk about it, because it's that important. Because it's not easy to make a mindset shift. But if we take some intentional steps to lock it in, then we'll be able to adapt and it'll be just a little bit easier for us to make that transition. Okay. So this week's challenge is to delegate one task that you would normally keep because you do it faster. Doesn't matter what it is, you choose. And then I want you to ask yourself this question: what would it look like to spend that time developing someone to do the task instead? That's it. Ask yourself that question, delegate that task. And that is going to become your catalyst. That is going to be your turning point where you should start to see things differently and you'll get better results from it. All right. So this is where we want to be. And as we're thinking about crossroads and how to think through some of these choices and really getting some clarity, I'm just going to remind you to sign up for the email so that you can get a copy of the What's Next guide. This is going to give you some prompts to help you think through these things, to get some clarity and just line out some steps that are going to help you get closer to your end goal, to your objectives. Okay? And think about this. Every promotion requires you to reprioritize your strengths. There is not going to be one person who you will talk to who will tell you that they have remained the exact same person in every position that they've had, because it's not true. So think through this. And if you have to re-listen. And I'll leave a link for some other episodes, which I think will be very helpful for you as you're working through your leadership role and visibility and promotions. It'll be, you'll be glad that you did. Okay. So thanks for listening. And that's the end of the episode. And be sure to follow the show so that you do not miss the notifications. And until next time, be thoughtful, be wise, be strategic. And remember, crossroads reveal who you are. Catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters. So make it count. I'll talk to you next week.